In this video, I'm going to talk about how you can get the most out of your aim training. If you feel like Kovaaks or AimLab isn't helping you get better, this video will fix that. To do this, I'm going to have to go pretty in-depth on aim coaching strategies I've used to work with top 500 players in Apex Legends, Overwatch, and Valorant, including a few Valorant pros. In short, all you really have to do to make yourself improve faster is make yourself uncomfortable. People go into aim trainers with the mindset that they're just going to play the aim trainer. They don't push themselves to the extent they need to do to improve. If you're a weightlifter going to the gym every day, but you're not really lifting that much in the gym, you're going light weights, low reps, then you won't get very far. Aim training is kinda similar. You can go into Kovaaks, play all you want, but if you stay on light weight, you don't push yourself, those hours won't really help that much. Now, a lot of people would think, okay, so I'm just going to go into Kovaaks, play harder scenarios, and play for longer, but this isn't entirely true. Difficulty in aim trainers comes as much from the mental approach as it does from what is visible on your screen. To get better more quickly, you need to work on specific skills with intense focus. So the first step to doing this is just find a weakness. As an aim coach, I look at people's weaknesses constantly, so I've come up with a long list of specific ones. Some of the more common ones include things like reacting to a change in direction on a strafing target. This issue is noticed when you find you get thrown off a target when someone changes direction, counter-strafing, AD spamming, or when a bot you're tracking changes direction. Other people struggle with precise control. These people cannot make very fine adjustments onto targets, and this issue can show up in flicking, tracking, or both. Some people struggle to read moving targets. They can't aim at targets when they move. A lot of people are really good at executing flicks, but they struggle to unconsciously plan them, making reacting and flicking difficult. Now, before I can get into how you know what your weaknesses are and how you fix them, I want to tell you guys about an amazing mobile game. This video's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. You've probably heard of Raid Shadow Legends before, but chances are you don't actually know what you do in Raid Shadow Legends. So let me tell you about the Doom Tower. Imagine this, a prison filled with very powerful fictional RPG style opponents who are all on jailbreak, and you have to take a squad of champions to beat them back as soon as you can so they don't get free. Within the Doom Tower, you can find my favorite boss, the Scarab King. A lot of the Doom Tower's bosses will ignore block debuffs, and they can also do some bad stuff to your champions, like draining their turn meters or stripping their buffs. That means that the champions will play worse and their turns will take longer to happen. Now, the thing about the Scarab King is he's one of those bosses who has specific mechanics that are required to beat him. He will take almost no damage unless you reduce his max HP, and if you attack him without a shield buff, you're pretty much done. Raid just released new content, a dungeon called the Twin Iron Fortress. Beating this dungeon allows you to awaken and buff your champions. They also just added a legendary version of the Death Knight, and all you have to do is play for 7 days from now until October 27th to get it. You can also use the promo code DKRises to level your champion to level 50. Make sure you click my link in the description or scan my QR code to get a ton of free bonuses worth $30. An epic champion Ana, 200,000 silver, a free energy refill, an XP boost, and an ancient shard, all for free. Help me out and get Raid Shadow Legends. Now you're probably wondering, how do I know what my issue is? Well, here's the secret. Record some of your own gameplay. Look at it and see how your aim fails. This could be deaths, whiffs, anything. Even if your aim wasn't the primary factor in a loss or something, check it out. Try to think of all the ways you could have done better in each fight in terms of aim, and try to rank how much they held you back in that fight. For example, you could always react faster, but if your Voltaic bronze and your crosshair started moving after like 150 milliseconds, then reactions aren't really an issue for you. This could work for aim trainer VODs or anything else aim related. After watching enough gameplay, you should have a list of things you don't do well. There is no set list of issues people can have. The idea of an issue in this context is just an attempt to describe what goes wrong. You don't need to be able to verbally describe your issues. It isn't necessary to fix them. Verbal descriptions aren't even really necessary to coach people on how to fix their issues. Just be aware of what your problems are, what they feel like, and what they look like. If you're trying to make a note, like you're actually taking notes on VOD reviews and you can't describe an issue but you know exactly what it is, just mark it down with a number, like mark that issue as 1, and every time you see 1 on your notes, you know what it is. If you can't figure out your issues, obviously you can hire me as a coach, but if you know your issues, that shouldn't be necessary, and if you think you might know your issues, then try that training, and if it works, it works. Next, find aim trainer scenarios that allow you to feel your issues. This is the key part of where mental discomfort comes into play. The scenario alone cannot fix your issues or force them to be visible. There are almost always ways to hide issues in scenarios. Instead, the scenario gives you a sandbox to confront your issues and battle them. Here's an example. I've been using the H&A routines, particularly the first one, on and off for about 6 months. At first, I read the guide and started using it, but I kind of skipped over a few important parts. The guide said focus on stopping power, and I didn't completely understand the concept or how to focus on that, so I ignored it. I liked the feeling of going faster and faster, and I stuck with it. Now, my issue was that I wasn't critical of my errors, and I wasn't working on them with speed pushing, which means that I was never focusing on stopping power. I was never improving at what I needed to be improving on. Recently, I was talking to Stark LN, who mentioned in a VOD of mine, every time I switch between targets, I get close to the target, I shake a few times randomly, and then I micro adjust. I couldn't stop my mouse moving at the speed I was moving at. I realized I needed to spend my time speed training, forcing myself to stop my mouse cleanly without shaking as much. To do this, I went into Pokeball wide wall 3 targets and I just played it over and over again. Each run, I would try to switch between targets and also stop efficiently. Obviously, this was very difficult to do and I didn't always succeed. Pretty similar to what I was doing before, a bit slower, but what really changed was my mental state. I was way more focused on actually stopping and stopping power instead of shaking, and I was focusing on it correcting itself, and it did. I recommend a similar mental approach to training for other people. Be aware of what your weaknesses are, whatever they may be, dial into them when you're training. Watch them happen. Constantly be aware that they are happening. However, as most people who've seen my videos already know, you don't want to put too much of your conscious mind into a job where it is trying to control motor movements. You want to act as an observer of what is happening. Do the training the way you want to do it, but don't try and over control your approach, especially the fine details of that. Leave that to the unconscious mind. Just keep your focus on the outcome you want, and in that way you will improve at whatever issue is holding you back. Finally, you want to try to create a reasonable amount of errors with what you're trying to do. If you tend to trail targets, find a scenario where you trail the bot, but not one that's so difficult that you are never on target. If you tend to struggle with making micro adjustments quickly enough, use a metronome. Click when the beat happens. This allows you to pace yourself in a way that forces faster adjustments, while keeping your focus on the task at hand and not making your aim into spray and pray. For me, I chose the wide wall 3 target scenarios over others because further apart targets force me to go faster before stopping, so it makes it so that I focus on having more stopping power. If someone struggles with reading moving targets, I will give them something like floating heads timing 400%. If they struggle with reacting to strafing targets changing in direction, I'll give them some scenarios like Cine Click Valorant Hard and Passo Extra Small Horizontal. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more aim training content.